You know what they say. Men are from Mars, and bosses are from Uranus. Mynerd Troft, unemployed shift supervisor, formerly associated with the Mopig meatpacking plant, inspected the newspaper want ads very carefully indeed, as he had for many months. This day he was rewarded with a position that seemed to suit him perfectly. The ad read, "We are looking to hire immediately one previously failed employee, preferably experienced in management. Only those so qualified need apply. Call 555-5432. Well, Mynerd made the call and was rewarded with an interview. He was warned to come alone and to make sure that he wasn't being followed. He thought this a little odd, but then a job was a job. Mynerd parked his car in front of the metal prefab building, which curiously displayed no logo or company name. It was located conveniently on the wooded edge of the Cowchip Alabama Industrial Park. Mynerd, dressed for business in his best t-shirt and jeans, after making a final inspection in his rearview mirror and rotating his auburn baseball cap to the forward position, strolled up to the front door and was received at the desk by a smiling receptionist. I hope she's not an Alabama fan, he thought to himself. After a time, an older gentleman appeared and quickly ushered him back to his office.
"Be seated, please, and be comfortable. My name is Mr. Croton,"
said the man, smiling, taking Mynerd's hand and pumping it exactly 3 times.
"We are delighted you could come out to see us today."
"The pleasure is all mine,"
said Mynerd, slouching comfortably in his chair. Croton shuffled some papers on his desk, then opened a drawer, found what he was looking for, and took a huge bite from a plug of Good Day's Chew chewing tobacco.
"Oh, would you care for some?"
he asked Mynerd, offering.
"Don't believe I would,"
replied Mynerd, taken a little aback. Croton, fidgeting, seemed to have lost something. Finally he shrugged and spit a glob into his trash can.
"Now, Mynerd, may I call you that?"
he asked. Mynerd rubbed his mouth. He would have liked to chew right about now, but that seemed to be pushing it.
"Please do,"
he said.
"What we are offering is a unique position, to be sure,"
said Croton, shifting his gaze from Mynerd to the trash can and back.
"We need a person to fill an important job for us. It is a top-level job, and the lucky hiree, as we like to call them, will supervise a large staff dedicated to the care and protection of certain animals we have on the premises. Do you have any experience with animals?"
He leaned over to address the can once more.
"Yes, sir. As a matter of fact, I do,"
said Mynerd, straightening in his chair, leaning forward.
"We had a lot of animals through the plant back at Mopig, you bet."
"Well, why did they let you go?"
asked Croton directly.
"Oh,"
said Mynerd, shifting his eyes to the floor, becoming surly.
"they said I wasn't working out so good."
"We have already checked into that,"
said Croton, smiling.
"I think you are perfectly suited for our use, if you will have the job."
"Well, now,"
said Mynerd confidently.
"I'll take it. What is it?"
Croton stood up, taking Mynerd by the arm, and he said,
"Come with me, young man. Let me show you."
They passed several people in white lab coats in the long hall leading to the back of the building and crossed through 2 secured doors.
"We wore white coats back at the plant,"
said Mynerd to Croton as they walked.
"You had an important job at the packing plant, didn't you, Mynerd?"
asked Croton cheerfully.
"Sure did,"
said Mynerd proudly.
"Chances are that if you ate a sausage biscuit at Doodleburger, the meat come from our plant."
"I've eaten quite a few,"
said Croton, beaming.
"Mighty tasty."
More seriously,
"Now, Mynerd, what I'm about to show you is not exactly what it appears. I want you to keep that in mind."
"Okay, Mr. Croton,"
said Mynerd, thinking to himself, "Here comes the big butt." Unconsciously, he shifted his cap to the backward position once again. Croton stopped before a large plate glass window and pushed a small button beneath.
"Open the window, Al,"
he said to the air. He turned to Mynerd.
"It's a security issue. Al is watching us from a hidden camera."
Mynerd nodded. They had security cameras back at Mopig to cut down on loafing, but he suspected that they weren't hooked up to anything. The dark window slowly became transparent to show what appeared to be a stainless steel room a level below them, 20 feet on the side, with at least 24 naked men and women of varying ages and colors sitting or laying about. Some sprawled on each other, most drooling and covered in filth. One more active than the rest was scuttling about on all fours.
For gosh sakes, Al,
said Croton angrily.
hose them down. We have an important visitor here.
Oh,
came Al's voice. Water sprayed from hundreds of holes spaced around the walls, temporarily hiding the squalor below. Mynerd was aghast.
What are you doing to those people down there?
He asked Croton. Croton, sensing Mynerd's dismay, said soothingly,
Now, don't be alarmed. It is warm water.
No,
exclaimed Mynerd.
those poor people down there. Why?
Oh, I see.
Said Croton, understanding dawning.
One takes these things for granted after a time. What you see down there, Mynerd, what you take for people are not actually people at all.
Mynerd was confused.
Here, take another look.
Said Croton. The water spray ceased, revealing a pitiable lot. One of the women shook her head, stringy hair flying. The scuttling man was now lying on his back, kicking his legs and clawing at the air. Most had not moved.
Now, before we go on, and I explain further, pick one of them for a demonstration.
Said Croton.
What kind of demonstration?
Asked Mynerd suspiciously.
It won't hurt a bit, I promise.
Said Croton.
Well then, that one. The one that looks like an old grandfather with teeth.
He said, pointing to an older gentleman. White hair stubbled on the sides of his head, bald on top.
He reminds me of my old boss.
That's the spirit, Mynerd. Splendid.
Said Croton, patting him on the back.
We did well hiring you.
Speaking to the air,
Al, have Mr. Frowbridge brought to the manager's office, if you please.
Croton led him to a double window further on down the hall. The view was of two rooms separated by a door. In the first, a well-stocked closet, or perhaps a dressing room, two of the white coats hurriedly dressed Frowbridge in a business suit. All the while he stood there wavering and drooling.
Watch this now.
Said Croton, pushing the button below the window.
Mr. Frowbridge,
He said loudly. Frowbridge looked up stupidly, one of the attendants wiping drool from his mouth.
Mr. Frowbridge, we have an important job for you. In the next room is an office, and we want you to go and manage it for us.
Mynerd saw that Frowbridge was definitely reacting now. He stopped drooling. Two white coats led him into the second room. It contained 3 desks. They set Frowbridge down at the largest of them, and they each took a seat at the others. Frowbridge sat there uneasily at first, then, shakily, he held up his hand and, pointing at one of the desks, said,
you there. I want the status report on our current accounts prepared immediately.
Then more forcefully,
The rest of you, I want results now, or it will be the door.
What is it?
asked Mynerd.
Hypnotism?
Absolutely not.
Answered Croton. Inside the room, Frowbridge was issuing orders, shuffling papers, and making a particular ass of himself. Mynerd was as impressed with Mr. Frowbridge's remarkable recovery as mystified. Walking slowly back up the hall, Croton said,
No, Mynerd, it's not hocus pocus. Those people you saw in the tank, including Mr. Frowbridge, are not people at all. They are not human beings as we understand these things. We think they are our missing link, or perhaps something we picked up in our cave days. They look like us, act like us, but are not of us. Completely different species. Genetics don't match up.
Mynerd nodded in complete misunderstanding.
Now, what did those pitiful specimens you saw in the cage remind you of? Be honest now.
Mynerd thought a moment, testing his feelings.
They look like humans, but they kind of reminded me of bugs, leeches, slugs, cockroaches.
Precisely, my boy. You see, stripped of human contact, they are a lost lot, completely alien. You saw the remarkable transformation of Mr. Frowbridge when exposed to our people in the office laboratory, didn't you?
Glancing at the stainless steel tank as they passed it, Croton said,
They are management in its purest form. They produce nothing and have no original thought and are totally and genuinely helpless without humans to dominate and shape to their genetic will. It's monstrous.
Yes, monstrous.
agreed Mynerd.
Are all managers inhuman?
Not at all, my boy.
Said Croton, smiling.
Humans are quite capable, well, mostly capable of managing themselves, though in the presence of these masters of disguise, these chameleon-like leeches, we are powerless.
A question had been worrying Mynerd, and like a dangerous, vulgar, swollen pimple, it burst forth.
Mr. Croton, how do you know that I'm not one of those things?
Croton smiled.
We know, my boy, we know. For one thing, a baseball cap never looks very good on management. Yours fits you perfectly. And then there are certain other mannerisms that you possess. Your slouchy appearance, for instance, dead giveaway. You have been sexed, Mynerd, and you passed with flying colors.
Mynerd did not quite know how to take that, but he let it go.
How did you find out about them, sir?
Asked Mynerd.
It's all in the company handbook.
Said Croton.
You know, the human race has suspected that management was a different breed since time immemorial. It's just that today we have the tools to prove it.
How did you get them here?
We remove them, kidnap them, if you will.
I haven't read of any kidnappings lately.
Said Mynerd.
I watch a lot of TV.
You won't hear of it.
Their families don't report it?
No, never. We suspect they instinctively feel like it's less competition, easing their way up the ladder, as it were. You see, Mynerd, in our present climate of societal decay and joblessness, more and more people and management are losing their positions. As you have seen, with no one to manage, these creatures revert to mindlessness.
And the employees?
Asked Mynerd.
Damn glad to be rid of them.
Said Croton firmly.
And they are conditioned to never rock the boat, both human and management.
I know the feeling, sir.
Said Mynerd.
I understand completely, Mynerd.
Acknowledged Croton sympathetically.
Do we kill them?
Croton stopped dead in his tracks, shocked, addressing Mynerd sternly.
No, heavens no. That would cause more problem than it's worth to society. And neither is it sustainable just to lock them up. There are too many of them. Their stay here is very short as we work to transition them to a new management job.
If it's not telling company secrets, who pays the bills?
Well,
Said Croton, smiling once more.
that would be telling a great deal. Suffice to say that we are completely and very generously funded by several grateful organized labor unions around the country, particularly those of the public sector.
Oh,
Said Mynerd, nodding his head.
I wondered where all my dues went.
Another question flittered across Mynerd's noggin.
But suppose we make a mistake and bring a human here.
What impossible, my boy?
Beamed Croton.
We have specialists who can spot a phony a mile off. It's much like sexing a baby chick. Can you look at a chick and tell if it's a boy or a girl?
Never thought that about it.
Admitted Mynerd.
Well, it takes a trained eye, believe you me.
Are politicians, human?
That's a totally different department, Mynerd. We have our hands full just doing our job.
And my job?
Your job, Mynerd, is to oversee our shipping department. You will supervise quite a large staff dedicated to returning these poor creatures to their homes and families, or simply back to the workplace.
I'm sure I can do it.
Said Mynerd gratefully.
But what then is the point of all this?
He asked, gesticulating.
Ah, the point.
Beamed Croton with even more wattage.
Why, we bring them here to sterilize them, Mynerd. Stupid creatures that they are, they never know the difference. Then we send them back to work and to breed.
Or not to breed.
Croton beamed until his face was all smile, exposing his brown-stained front teeth.
That is never a question after we get through with them.
Hello, this is Norm, still stuck in Cowchip, Alabama. Management Decision is your massively quick intro to Cowchip, Alabama and the RYO Corporation. My other Cowchip tales run from novella length all the way up to full novel size. They span a time period from 1955 to 2455, and all Cowchip tales have one thing in common: the sinister RYO Corporation and science fiction humor most wicked. I'm expecting the phone to ring with someone from the Sci-Fi Channel or Hollywood at any moment. Just think, your Cowchip books would be instant collector's editions. The Cowchip Cafe is the hands-down most downloaded, and the RYO Lodge is a most monstrous and hugely wicked read. Lots of ahas and I didn't know that's, also a few no ways, and a couple of you gotta be kiddings. Yep. Of course, devouring monsters and hosepipes are fun too, and so on. Hey, do yourself a favor. Don't stop with management decision.